So one of the first stories Rachel asked me to ask you about that I've heard, that she's heard a lot of times that I have not heard.
What?
Was the story about your first job in California and going cross country with Auntie Esther. Is that true?
That's true.
Now that was hazardous duty, wasn't it?
What?
That was not fair.
Not fair?
Not fair because you had to go cross country with Aunt Esther or what?
I didn't go across. I came back. I was let go from my job in San Francisco. Okay?
Gotcha. What were you doing in San Francisco? What was your first job?
I was working as a sales representative for Applied Electronics, which made radio telephones for boats, and they finally ended up making sonar equipment for boats. You know what sonar equipment is?
Yes, I do. It's radar underwater.
You come from a long way.
Yeah, I come a long way.
Anyway.
I got you warmed up with the Billy Crystal book. Okay, go ahead.
Anyway, and my father had a heart attack, and so I decided that I'm not going to stay out in California as much as I loved the area and loved the ambience of San Francisco. I decided to come back, and Esther, my aunt.
This was Henry's sister.
This is Henry's sister.
Yep.
Was there, and I decided I'll go back with you, and they asked me to drive them back, so I drove.
This is from California.
Where the hell else would it be? I was talking to California, wasn't I? I would drive them back to at least Chicago. To tell you the truth, that's about all I could stand.
I'm surprised you made it that far.
Yeah. Well, you don't know.
Well, what kind of car were you driving? Do you remember?
A Buick Roadmaster.
That was a nice car.
It was a very big car.
Yeah.
A big car, and it was a heavy, and I drove it. First we went to, where the hell did we go? Oh, we went to Santa Rosa, California, which was Burpee's, the rose, he cultivated roses.
Okay.
And that's where we started. And then from there, we went to Reno, Nevada. And we stayed in Reno, Nevada one night, and nothing happened there. Then, from Reno, Nevada, we drove down to Las Vegas. And
this doesn't sound like a direct route to me.
No, we didn't, because we wanted to see these places.
I get you. Okay.
Who's telling the story, you or me?
I'll ask the questions.
And we went to
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas, and we stayed at, what the hell is the name of the hotel? The Thunderbird Hotel, yeah. The Thunderbird Motel. And we went to a show at one of the casinos. Now, I don't remember what the name of the casino, but there were just a few casinos in those days. Mm-hmm. And we went to one of them, and we had the buffet dinner, and we saw the show. We saw K-Star in the show. You don't know who she is.
No, I don't.
Be on before your time.
Yeah.
She was a singer.
Okay.
She was a chanteuse.
Okay.
But we saw the show, and I think the dinner and the show cost us $5.
That was Vegas.
Yeah, and this was in
46? 46?
No. It was 48.
48.
And, this was before Las Vegas was really built and everything else. So we went to the show. We had a wonderful time at the show and this, that. and I was with these three women. One of them was related to my Aunt Esther, who was my father's sister, and another distant cousin. What the hell was her name? Another distant cousin, and a lady named Buddy, who they all lived in Lynn and Swampscott.
Okay.
Massachusetts.
Right.
So from there, we went to Salt Lake City, and we saw the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, and we saw the Mormon Temple, and they tried to convert us and all of that jazz.
Didn't happen.
Didn't happen. Didn't happen. Anyway, we saw Salt Lake and all of that jazz. It was very, very, very interesting. The town was a beautiful town, as clean as could be, as far as I can remember. And let's see, from there.
Go to Kansas City or St. Louis?
No. We went to Denver.
Okay.
Is that where we went?
Yeah. It's in the right direction.
And on the way to Denver, we stopped at the
National Park?
Grand Canyon. Somehow or other we got
Yosemite?
to the Grand Canyon.
Grand Canyon, okay.
And we went from Denver to where did we go from there? The next thing I remember, I think we went to Cedar Rapids, Iowa. What did we miss? No, I don't think.
There isn't a heck of a lot between Denver and Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
No.
The Midwest.
But Cedar Rapids, Iowa was one of the cleanest cities I can remember. And it was laid out beautifully, and it was a lovely, lovely town. And we stayed in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Something I'm missing, I don't know what it is. And from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, we drove to Chicago.
Right.
And in Chicago, I decided Esther wanted to see her son, who was at the University of Illinois, and drive him home.
That's Sherman or Milton?
That was Sherman.
Yep.
Yeah. And Milton went to Harvard.
La-di-da. He couldn't get into Tufts, obviously.
Anyway, they drove to Chicago, and I left him in Chicago, and I took the train home.
Good move.
And it's an overnight trip. So that was the story.
Now, go back. Now that I know that was 1948, and I have a chronological thing in my brain here.
Good.
I want to talk about the Navy, because one of the most amazing things, when I was looking at some of the papers I wrote, and I must have interviewed you about your time in the Navy at some point.
What about it?
I don't know. You told me in that note that you had sailed into Nagasaki Harbor after the second bomb was dropped, and how shaken you were. That
was in
the war, 45, 44.
No, it was 1940. When the hell was it? Yeah, it was 1945 in October.
Right.
I think it was the first or second week in October. I was on a troop ship taking me for assignment in Japan I didn't know what kind of a boat I was going on. The ship I ended up on, I went across the Pacific, and we went right by Wake Island, and all of the islands. We went right by it, and we ended up in Okinawa. Now, this was only 8 weeks after the war was over.
Right.
And I'll tell you, I could still smell the burning flesh, because we used a lot of flamethrowers in that island to get them out of the caves. And, it's terrible. So then from Okinawa, the ship took us to no. In Okinawa, they put me on a destroyer. A destroyer that took me up to Nagasaki, and I saw the destruction of what that bomb did to that town. It leveled it completely, and all I could see was twisted metal in a black patch of land that extended for miles. And from Nagasaki, they took me to a place, the destroyer took me to a place called Kagoshima, which is at the southern tip of Japan, the very southern tip of Japan, where it was a big naval harbor at one time. It was destroyed completely. And let's see. We stayed in this. That was in October, and we stayed in Nagasaki, not Nagasaki, Kagoshima, from October to December 31st, and on and we left on December 31st for Shanghai, China. And we the day we left, there was a mountain there, a volcanic mountain. It erupted.
Oh boy!
And we didn't see any of it, but we just missed it. It's a good thing
good thing you were right there, right?
Yeah. So we went from there to Shanghai, China. Yeah. And in Shanghai, China, let's see, Shanghai, China,
You got some great souvenirs. You got a great robe.
Yeah, but I don't know where it is now. I think I disintegrated. We went to Shanghai, China, and while in Shanghai, China, I met a friend of my brother's whose name was Goldberg. What the hell is... First, I can't remember his first name. Anyway, I met this fellow there, and we went around. He had been stationed in China, and then they had sent him down to Shanghai, and he also was in the Navy, and he took me around and showed me the sights in Shanghai. Now, Shanghai at that time was one of the filthiest cities I've ever been in. And one of the greatest, not the greatest, one of the things that I remember when Nixon went there, because he was the first president that went to China, the city was spotless. They had cleaned up the city, and it was unbelievably how different it looked to me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, our ship was on the Wangpo River, Jesus, Wangpo River, which was right across the street. We were tied up at the dock, and right across the street was a very famous hotel that was on the Bund. They used to call it the Bund. The wharf was the Bund. It was a hotel where we could go in and have 2 eggs and a steak and coffee and orange juice, I think for $2. This was, don't forget, this was a long time ago. So, and they were, you know, they had a piano player. They really had every place you went in Shanghai. They had the bars and the sailors and all of that. And then I found out that a cousin of mine, his name was Manny Goldberg, he was from Lynn, Massachusetts, was head of the Stars and Stripes Far Eastern Division. The Stars and Stripes was a newspaper put out by the United States Army.
Right, I know.
And so I was able to get in touch with him, and we had a couple of days. Yeah, we were there from January 2nd or so until March. Yeah, we had March, and we had dinner quite a few times together. He showed me around, and there wasn't much to see. Now, one of the things that happened that stuck in my memory, there was a section of town that was called Jewtown, and being Jewish, I was quite interested in it. So I went in that for a few times, and I had dinner at one of the restaurants where I could get all the Jewish food that because a lot of people, many of them were white Russians, and that had fled to China to get away from the pogroms and everything else in Russia. And then one of the interesting things I did was with this young man Goldberg. I went to temple on Friday night, and it was all in English. That was an interesting experience, because the temple was crowded, and was people that lived there, and it was quite nice. And after that, we set sail for the United States, and this was about, I don't know, I was there from, couldn't have been more, January, February, March. Oh yeah. That's about sometime in the end of March, maybe the early April. We set sail for the United States because we were going to decommission the ship. The ship was the USS Markham, which was a merchant ship that was converted to
Destroyer?
a destroyer tender. Now, the destroyer tender's job was to take care of destroyers and smaller ships. And so we ate pretty good on the ship, and the duty was pretty good on the ship. We didn't have much to do, but it was okay. And on the way back, we took the Great Circle route from Shanghai up, and we headed north to come down the coast of Alaska to the coast of California. And we ran into storms. And one storm we ran into, I had to go out of the shop where we worked, and I couldn't believe it. The waves were up higher than the ship, and we were down here, and the top of the waves was up there. And so it was quite
scary.
Scary, I'd say, yeah. So, but I got back inside as fast as I could, and that lasted for a day or two. And then we went down the coast of California, through the Panama Canal to New Orleans, where we were going to decommission the ship. And we got into the port of New Orleans and some port around there, and then we had to unload all the munitions that were in the bowels of the ship. And we spent a couple of days doing that, and that was backbreaking work because they didn't have elevators to take these shells from the bowels of the ship up to the so the whole crew had to join in and do that.
Did you do like a fireman brigade? Did you like pass it, or did
Yeah, we had to pass it, but the problem, you had to pass it up.
Right.
You couldn't,
Right.
So that was the worst. Oh, I didn't tell you one story that happened in Shanghai. This is for riot. I was put on shore patrol with a gun and with a billy club, and this with 4 other. There's a couple of Marines and another one was an Army guy. So there was 4 of us, and we had to patrol a certain area. Well, we get into one area, and all of a sudden there was a Marine that was drunk as a hoot owl that was fighting with a group, and we had to break the fight up. And the only way we could keep this guy
under control.
So we had to sit on him. It's the only way we could do it. The only way we could keep him, which we finally did, and then that was the shore patrol in Shanghai. Then when I got to New Orleans, the ship had a party, a goodbye party at the, I think it was at the Hotel Roosevelt in New Orleans. And one night, I went to the party, and we had all the drinks we wanted and everything else. We were dancing, and it was fun.
I was going to say it was fun.
And then the next night, I was on shore patrol in the hotel for the other part of the crew. We only one part of the crew went one night, and the second night the other part went.
And you got to go both nights.
I got to both. But one I was shore patrol for that night.
Right.
So I go into the party, and all of a sudden a fight breaks out in the party. So me and another sailor, we had to dive in and break up the fight. I think we had another guy too with us, and so that was my whole fighting experience.
Military, in the war.
In the Navy.
You were breaking up fights amongst your peers.
Their own peers.
Right. No, well, that's actually probably a lot safer than the alternative, I suppose.
Yeah, I
right?
would say so.
Yeah. So that's cool. Hey, those are good. Those are good stories, Dad. Those are great stories.
Yeah. So that's, and then I came home, and it was about I think it was May 30th. That was when they put me on a train and sent me back to Boston. And I went to the Fargo building and down in Boston, and I left the Navy. Yeah. So that was it.
Now you're still class of '45 for Tufts. I know the war years were different. Didn't they like jumble all the classes together or something? You once told me that. Or you graduated before you went into the Navy?
No. I was what the hell do they call it? I was given a deferment because I was going to engineering school, and that was until 1944, in June of 1944. I think that's right. And the draft board finally said to me, there are no more deferments. Yeah, this was in this. Wait a minute. Yeah, this was in 1944. It was in somewhere between May and June. They cut out all deferments for everybody that was going to school and doing everything. The reason was the higher ups or somebody knew the war was going to be over. And an interesting thing was, I had a fraternity brother named Bob Atlas, whose brother was Jack Atlas, who was a big producer in Hollywood at that time. And he was in Harold Novick's class at Tufts. And he had written me in, he was in the Air Force out in Saipan, and he had written me in, I can't remember, was it May or June? He told me, it looks like the war's going to be over soon. All right, this was before we knew anything about the A-bomb and that sort of thing. And he was lost on one of the flights that he took from there. One of those, and yeah, he was from Lynn, Massachusetts too. And he predicted. You know, I took it with a grain of salt at that time, because who knows what the hell is stuff. So, but anyway, that's how I first knew something was going to happen. But I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.